All right, hello. This is just a random video that I decided to upload. There's a few of them that I planned on sending and just have not really um, gotten down to really working on. I was working on my own build in Path of Exile 2. I was deciding to go a witch, and to be honest, I enjoy the witch. I haven't really done much with any other class outside of maybe like the huntress, and when the league first started, the ranger. But other than that, I haven't really been doing a whole lot. So I decided to run the witch, and it's been a whole lot of fun. My game plan was to play. Um, well, I got super bored of the game, so I took a huge break from the game, and I decided to come back to it. And my game plan was to play a Reap Witch build, which Reap always seemed like a pretty cool skill to me, and I thought it would be pretty nice to be able to just run and enjoy. So my game plan has just been playing Reap as a witch, and I went looking up some builds on what people were doing with Reap, and what I found was people were either going Blood Mage or Infernalist. Now I've played Infernalist Witch for a few different seasons, and I had some pretty decent fun, but I did not do a whole lot with the build at the time. And honestly, I see a lot of content in my feed about like playing ranged and spellcaster and all these different kinds of things, minion builds, so on and so forth, that I just did not really find a lot of fun in them. The idea uh, did not really intrigue me as much as I thought it would. And I ended up giving a minion build, or rather, I guess, a companion build, a try with my Huntress, and everything was pretty smooth, but I was overall bored and just felt like I wasn't having a lot of fun at the time with the build. I also felt like there wasn't much for me to look for in terms of better gear or in terms of like anything else to do as a whole. So I was pretty like turned off from that build. And I mean, I still have it. So I guess at any point I could come back, return, and try it. Or if not that, then I could um, repurpose the build to be like a ritualist. I tried a ritualist once. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. It was like 2 leagues ago, maybe. So, yeah, it was all just still fairly new to me. And I that's just been my experience. I've been seeing all kinds of builds for all different types of ways to play with a lot of different characters. I thought Reap would be like the most intriguing, just because it was kind of like a battle mage for a witch, fight up close and personal, and you get to use a scythe, and scythes are just not a typical weapon in a game. So I thought generally it would be pretty cool to run with, and using like following that build, I was like, yeah, I'll be set. Like I'll have everything secure, and I can just run the game and enjoy myself. But to be fair, to be honest, I saw that a lot of people were playing Blood Mage Reap. And I thought, well, I'll check out some videos and guides and whatnot and figure out what people are doing with Reap to have a better understanding of how I want to go about using it. But in a grand scheme of things, instead of going Blood Mage, I'll try a different build with Reap. I'll try a different Ascendancy. So I was like, maybe I'll try Lich, but I've never really used Lich, and to my understanding, Lich benefits best when you are using minions, and I didn't really want to have to juggle like minions with Reap, but I don't really know a lot about Lich because I've never really used it, so maybe it's not so heavy on minions, and maybe that's just a way of thinking that might have just flat out been wrong. So, yeah, I decided to go for Infernalist. Because I mean it's my bread and butter. It's what I'm used to playing whenever I do play Witch, and I thought I'd make an Infernalist Reap build with a Witch, and I thought I was gonna be so special and everything was gonna be so different, and I was just super wrong. So, my I found out like a day or two after I decided to go the Infernalist route, and I was just looking up more Battle Mage Reap builds to figure out what better way to like build the Infernalist. While looking around, sure enough, there was an Infernalist Reap build that came up. Actually, there were two to three of them, and different people were talking about using different things, but they all basically tackled the same problem head on. And I was like, ah, so nothing I'm doing is special. Kinda. So I decided to try to take it from my own point of view, my own perspective, change things up, and see what I could get out of it. Um, and in the process of doing so, I found out that I had no idea what I was doing. And so I went to go check out the Infernalist Reap guides and videos and such. And they were pretty straightforward. And I thought, yeah, I could do this. I could just, kind of copy the base of it all and then move on from there. But in the process of trying to utilize it and run with it, I was running into some issues. So, from my general understanding of the people who made the builds, there is a from my understanding of the people who made the builds, well, I don't know what's going on. Okay, so yeah, there was one major problem. Basically, from what I was seeing was people were, I guess, using a completely different build, hitting a point where they got bored or got stuck and decided to flip over to a Reap Infernalist. So in order to get the build up and running, I guess you have to be a certain level and have a certain set of gear. And I've got the gear, I just don't have the levels. So the YouTuber was giving like a step by step way in order to get to that point of being an Infernalist, which looking back on it now seems like it doesn't really make sense because when you look at the YouTuber's build, he has the Blood Mage's life remnants in his build, meaning that for him to have been for him to be an infernalist but have those life remnants, which he can't use because it's not a part of his active ascendancy, it would mean that he would have had to have been a blood mage at first and then swapped over to an infernalist. So he was giving a guide on what skills you should pick first, what order, and how to set stuff up for your ascendancy, and then run from there. And don't get me wrong, it's really cool that he even gives like that much in terms of order and what it is you should pick, but it also feels like it's fake and doesn't necessarily work because he wasn't an infernalist. He was a blood mage. And so there's no telling if he got to the level he got to playing as an infernalist, for majority of the time, because there's a pretty more than likely chance that he was a blood mage up until a certain point and decided to swap over to an infernalist. It doesn't mean that the build isn't useful or good or cool. It just means that you're following a guide for somebody or from somebody who's telling you what exactly it is that you need to put in to make things work. And this same person might have been leveling something else entirely different to begin with, and now you're following a guide for something that doesn't exist, and you're going to have some problems like I did. For example, I'm running my Trial of Sekhmet. I This is probably my fourth or fifth time running it from my the third part of my ascendancy. And I am suffering. And I'm suffering because he tells you that you should go Infernalist next to last for your trials, right? So you should get that lineup that gives you the spirit and reserves your life so you can be low on life to use the belt and also use the nodes in the tree. And then he wants you to flip over through the ascendancy and go for the I can't remember if demon form was absolutely last or if it was the next to last. But basically, if you're going for demon form in your third ascendancy, you got to go for the life reservation first, and that's your first two ascendancy. It's your first. I think it's like your first four ascendancy points, but it's your first two trials, like Trial of Sekhmet and Temple of Chaos runs, in order to get there. So you don't even use Infernalist until you're at that point where you've got enough skill points to have everything else roll over, and you've finished the trial in order to get there. And it's like, yo, I cannot finish this trial for the life of me using this setup. Now, mind you, I am like a level 70, I think 71, and I think you need to be like 90 in order to make this work. I saw some of the comments of the video, and people were saying that they swapped over, and it was like the perfect swap because they were like tired of Lich. So I guess that's what I need to do is bump my build back down to some completely different build, maybe even a Blood Mage rank for all I know, right? And play that different build up until I hit a certain point to where I can swap it back to the Infernalist, which is, I mean, it's cool. It's not that stressful or anything. It's just gonna feel a little exhausting because I already have a Blood Mage. I have another witch that I was leveling at the beginning of this league when I was first getting bored of the game, and she's like in Act 3. So I guess I'm basically just gonna take her gear and use it to level, or just leave her as like an extra potential playable build in case I don't want to swap off of the witch that I'm using right now. But yeah, that's just some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about because this has been an experience. Reap so far has been fun. The low life stuff isn't like super huge and doesn't really work up until you get to a certain point in a skill tree. So I'll probably just respec my entire tree. I'm gonna need entirely new skill gems, really more so support gems, and I guess I'll move from there. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because, sweet lord, has this been an adventure.